My second question had to do with the, you were talking, when you started talking about the importance of counseling in the black community, I thought you said it's important for black men, but it's even more important for black women. And I just was curious what you meant by that.
So again, I'm not comparing on like a weight thing. Black men have been traumatized in a certain way, and for that black man, that is really heavy for him. But I think when you take a step back and you see how black women have been traumatized, for them that's heavy. But I do think it's heavy. I think what white supremacy has done to black women is far more traumatizing than it has done to black men. Black women are great, like very smart, very strong. They've endured rape. They've endured babies cut out of their bellies. They've endured watching their child be killed. They've endured watching their man be killed. They've endured being placed in a white supremacist system where white man is at the top, then white woman, then black man, then black woman. So she's at the bottom. Her man treats her like she's the bottom. They treat her like she's the bottom. So all of this, she's traumatized by white women, she's traumatized by white men, she's traumatized by her own husband. Then she's traumatized by the responsibility of being worried about her children. And her nurturing motherhood being challenged because her children have to conduct themselves in a certain way or she'll lose them also. She doesn't have any earning power. I'm talking about throughout history, not currently.
Yeah.
She doesn't have any earning power. She doesn't have any strength to fight back physically against those who are in power. Like, she is at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to this white supremacist system. And so I think that if trauma is being passed down, the black women have been traumatically impacted in ways that I can't even imagine, I don't think.
I read an article, and it was, you know, sometimes it smacks you in the face, even though it's right there in front of you, and it was like, black women are in a situation where, right now, police have been killing black men.
Yo, come in,
What's
man.
going on, man?
Come on in, bro. You alright?
There's a serious conversation going on.
Oh, you got some seriousness. Yeah, come on in, man. It's the shop, man. Come on in here, bro.
Where it was one of those things where the article said,
Peace, bro. How you doing,
hold on, brother, Mac. Black women have to decide when abuse is taking place whether or not to call the police on their husband or take the abuse, because they're afraid that if they call the police, their husband may be killed, but they're afraid if they don't call the police, they may be killed. And you like, that's serious trauma. You know, that's serious where you're like, yeah, that needs some counseling.
Yeah. What you about to say, man?
Well, I was getting ready to say that one of the fundamental beliefs that I have is that if there is a God, I say if, like, I believe there's something greater. I don't define it. I don't know exactly what it looks like, but I firmly believe that that power only allows the strongest to go through the most. And that is why I've always believed that women were God. My appreciation for, I think my appreciation for black women has definitely increased the more that I pay attention to the world. I typically, I know, I've talked to friends about this, and I know a lot of people who say black women's God. I don't disagree. I hate attaching race to God and to that power only because I think that's part of well, it's also part of the white man society. And differentiating and separating. What I said earlier, I totally understood what both guys said afterwards and agreed with what they said. I am averse to separation because from the white perspective, it always scares me because I see where it can go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Brother, welcome to the conversation. We are talking about self-love and self-care. Please feel free to join in, or you don't have to join in.
You might want to introduce yourself first.
You want to introduce yourself, brother?
Full name, social security number,
Tax ID?
tax ID.
All right. I got you, Marlon. I got you.
Thank you,
You
brother
got to worry about
Marlon.
this.
But,
Yeah.
and we're just talking about self-love, self-care. If we've actually experienced self-love and self-care, if so, like what forms do we show? One of the things that I said earlier is that I tell myself I love you. And I think it's important, at least for me, to say I love you. Because not just saying, okay, let me do something to show myself, but like, let me say it. Like, if I'm gonna say it to somebody else and I want to hear somebody else say it to me, why not say it to myself? If my self-worth is based on only someone else saying I love you, my self-worth is low, because if I can't say it to myself, and that's just me. I'm not putting that on anybody else. I'm not saying anybody else should follow that suit, but that's just the way I see it. And so, please feel free to jump in, join in, say anything that comes to mind. If you have self-care that you like, hey, I'd like to share, please feel free. If you don't want, if you just want to get your beard shaped up, keep it clean and listen, that's fine as well.
Okay.
Um,
I'll continue to listen.
no, that's fine.
No, I think what you said is kind of like what's up. Like, the only thing we kind of expressed or really hit on much was, I know we were talking about saying like I love you to myself, right? But where the affirmation I think is needed more so than that is the expression, right? Because you can say I love. I can stand in the mirror all day and tell myself I love myself. Like that just literally takes 5 to 10 seconds of my day to say it 10 times. But if I'm not expressing that to myself, then I'm doing myself a disservice. I'm doing myself a disservice if I'm just saying, if I'm merely saying words that I'm not actually expressing. That's one thing I just wanted to hit on briefly. But the main thing is expressing it to yourself, right? Expressing self-love and self-care to yourself, and what that looks like. We talked a lot about how a lot of things have been trauma, different things have been passed down, and a lot of things we experience right now is because of past traumas. But thinking about the next generation, especially having a 12-year-old going on 13, and I know many of us here are parents, we have to now prepare our children in ways that we weren't prepared for. Some of us we weren't prepared for. So how do I at least help my daughter to better navigate through the traumas and the disappointments of life, where she's conscious or aware enough to take care of self, to take care of herself, to love on herself, and to know that she is worthy of love without me saying it. Without me saying it to her, or if I don't say it to her, if nobody else says it to her, she knows within herself she's worthy of love and that she's to be loved.
So, Ben, I want you to come have a seat. So before I say anything about that, one thing I want to hit on is you talk about expressions of love. Has anybody ever taken the 5 love languages test?
Yeah, I read the books.
So there are different ways that we receive love, and I think it's important. And I thank you for saying that because when I thought about it, I was like, oh, the 5 love languages. How do we express ourselves? We have to. It's important to take that test just so you can be like, how do I really receive love? And then you have to give yourself love through those expressions. You know, so that was very key to hit on that. So if you've never taken a 5 love languages test, take it so you understand how to give yourself love. And then your daughter, how do you teach your daughter? One of the things is you have to love on her. You have to tell her her self-worth. And then you have to do the same for yourself, and she has to be able to see it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So the question, when we presented the question, it was kind of like a rhetorical question, right?
Okay.
Because I'm aware, and I in my parenting, I'm very big on verbalizing communication, right? So even if my daughter is doing something, if I'm getting on my daughter for something she shouldn't do, and I'm disciplining her for that, I'm communicating with her before any discipline is taking place of what's going on. And then I'm instituting the consequences of her actions. And then after that, I'm reassuring her that I love her, right? So she's not being felt left and alone. If the conversation, the dialogue is me getting on her, she feels lonely of herself. Before we leave there, I'm going to love on her. She might not receive it because she's upset that she's been punished or whatever the consequences may be, but she's not being stuck to figure out if dad really loves me or my stepmom really loves me. It's, no, we love you. And because of this, there's things we have to correct here, right? And so one thing we do a lot, my daughter and I do a lot, we just talk, man. Communication is key. Like communication, I feel like is very key. I think we all know that in relationships, but more so for children, for those who are bringing up, because they're trying to analyze. And before I allow society or communication to interpret something for my daughter, I want to make sure I put a voice on it first.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever had a conversation about her self-worth?
Yeah, all the time.
Cool.
All the time.
Cool.
All the time. We talk about it all the time. I gauge her.
That's dope.
I gauge her. Like when we were riding in school, I'm like, yo, how are you feeling? And like if she's in trouble, I let her know, like, you might be pissed at me right now. Be pissed. I want you to be pissed. I want you to feel this. I want you to navigate through it. Then we'll come back and talk about it. Like I allow her. I'm like, yo, we have a thing that we instituted called safe space. Where in that safe space, like if you need to talk to me about some stuff that you feel like you can't do just in casual talk, you can institute safe space. Like, Dad, let's right now safe space, right? So it's like, okay, well, there's no limits, right? So if you need to curse in that space, if you need to say some stuff you might not think I'm agreeing with in that space, basically I try to create a judgment-free space in her where hopefully it can progress into that's our relationship period. Giving her the freedom to like, oh, it's okay, I can talk to him about this. He's not gonna jump on my ass about it. Like we're gonna talk about it. It's okay to talk about it, and hopefully she's open to whatever advice that I'm giving her, or at least looking for some type of answer or in that space. So that to me, it's communication has to be has to happen.
That's dope, man. Because your daughter now, her self-worth, her self-love, her self-care is high and it's being nurtured. And one of the first things you said is basically yours was not nurtured.
Yeah, that's what I said. We have to. I can speak for myself and I can speak for Will, and other brothers speak for themselves if they choose to. But I know for our experiences, it was like, yo, we weren't prepared for a lot. We weren't prepared for life. We weren't prepared for the difficulties we face in our marriage. We weren't prepared for the difficulties we face in just growing up black in our communities. And like, we didn't have really voices in our ears to be like, yo, bro, this is how you move in this situation. Like, this is how you need to navigate. Like, or we didn't have progressive images of men who actually doing it the right way around us that we can actually watch. You know?
So did you? Can I ask a question? Do you?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to.
No,
Uh,
we having a discussion in the barber shop. Chopping it up.
So where did you learn the skills that you were talking about with your daughter? Did you learn them in counseling, or did you learn them?
I learned a lot of the skills the hard way, man. Having to go through life and figuring out like the way I was doing it wasn't the way I was handling things wasn't the way I should have been. So going through a lot of hard experiences, a lot of traumatic experiences, a great deal actually, and having hard conversations and realizing that in those conversations there was life in those conversations. Like when I was being able to open myself up to someone like Will, I keep going back to Will because Will is like, that's my guy, you know what I'm saying? So like, I keep going back to Will because when I need to call someone, I'm calling Will, you know? So, and opening up to him and then being conscious, aware enough to sponge in the things he's telling me, you know what I'm saying, and to apply them. It's like, oh, yo, this actually works. So this is what needed. This is what I need. So trying my best to create a village of those relationships around me where Will's not available. I have a Wes Bellamy. I have, you know what I'm saying, Trey Lewis and somebody like that that I can count on, that I can talk to about it and navigate. It's needed. But to what you're saying, like, it's literally having to go through them and realizing that there was something missing that I didn't have access to, that I needed access to, is where that began.
It's cool, man. One of the dopest things that has come out of this in my mind is the fact that people are seeing therapists, like men. And every man in here, say Brother Martin, has expressed it, you know, therapy is important. And like, yo, see therapists. And it's alright. Like, we're not crazy. But we need to speak with a professional the same way we need a professional dentist or a professional doctor to
Or a
help with,
professional barber. Stop cutting yourself and thinking that you're gonna make it look like this, because it ain't gonna work. And that's why you need to go get you a professional counselor.
You gotta hold your head a certain way in the mirror and make the lines even.
Right. Trying to shape yourself up is not easy, especially when you get to the back. You try to temple tape that thing in the back.
Just want to plug
I don't even try.
Nah, we ain't got it. Come find us.
His Image Barbershop, Charlottesville. No, but you know, you need that professional to really help you navigate. And the coolest thing, at least the way I was trained, is I'm not telling you any answers. I'm asking you questions. You have all the answers, but you have to get to it. Buy-in is not me saying, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. Buy-in is when I'm saying, what do you think is going to work for you? What do you think is going to help? And you being like, yo, you know what will really help? Is this. This will really help. But then also having that person who be like, yo, do you really think self-medicating is helpful? Well, I don't think about it, but is that helpful? You know, and you need that reality check where it's like, all right, I'm going to help navigate you, maybe not necessarily to my answer, but on the path that I truly believe is going to be
Self-realization.
beneficial for self-realization. Because that's where true change occurs. Not because somebody else told you this is what you need to do, but because you were able to say, yo, I've realized this is what I need to do. And this person just helped me navigate that. And
a great
hopefully
counselor,
I hope you have a counselor like that.
a great counselor, I believe, is one who can help you unpack. And that's really what it is, helping you to unpack your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and to help you and facilitating you in that. Like, it's not, hey, do this, do that, do that. I mean, to me, that's where a lot of the churches that I grew up in, that's where they got it wrong, right? It was just, you do this, you do this, you do this, you don't do this. And I was like, bro, damn, I can't, like, it was that. But I think that helping someone to unpack these things and to let them know and assuring them in that, because when people unpack stuff, bro, a lot of stuff they have packed up or they have compartmentalized are things they don't want to touch or they don't want anybody else seeing. We don't want a lot of people to see or dig or touch our real stuff,
Yeah, our vulnerability.
our insecurities. You know what I'm saying? So if you help me unpack that, then what comes into that, now you're speaking life into somebody in that moment. You're affirming them, you're assuring them in that moment. You know what I'm saying? And you're letting them know that this is real, but this is as real. Like, you're still worthy, you're still loved, you're still worthy of love, you're still, you know what I'm saying? So that I think just a great therapist is one to help you really to get the things that you need to get out there and deal with the real things, because a lot of people want to focus on the outcome of the thing and not the root of the thing. So
I want to thank you all for taking the time to talk. You know, I know everybody's getting a haircut. I always feel like I need to get my haircut.
Oh, she ain't gonna beat me up.
Because he did say you're
hey,
professional.
yo,
I
stay
need a
loyal to your
professional.
barbers, man.
Look, I mean, I can shake
I got
myself
two of
up.
them.
I can shake myself up.
You shouldn't do that.
Look, I got
RC
two of
will
them.
get you. RC will get you
You
right.
see RC? But seriously, man, I appreciate you guys talking with me and going into this self-care, self-love. I feel like we still need to delve in more, and I'm definitely going to be looking to get a woman's perspective, because
That'd be dope.
we need it. We need self-care and self-love, because you know what? The other thing is, women can help men with self-care and self-love from what they see and what they see from us. So, women.
I think even not to cut you off, I think even more than that, it helps us to better love them here, to have them present to talk through things that we might get wrong in miscommunication and just assumptions and not reading and judging motives and not intent
And massage.
and misogyny. Like, to have women here to talk about things that we might assume that, oh, they deal with because they're trying to control us or this and the other, to hear their perspective on it and to be able to understand that it comes from a place of care, love, and respect, and not domineering or any of that. It's important, because especially for me, that was really hard. It's really hard for me. It was really hard for me to really like take advice or like my woman directing me, because of all these things. I'm like, I'm a man, I gotta all this stuff that's not even relative. Like, if it's wisdom, it's wisdom, regardless of the source. You know, so just be able to step out of self and be like, I want to love my woman better. So I think the important part is to be able to continue to have dialogue, especially with her, to get her perspective on things, so I can then be able to, okay, so if I feel these misogynistic feelings coming up in me when dealing in a situation with her, I don't know, she really means this, and I understand her intentions, and I'm not going off of how it's presented in the moment, even if her presentation is jacked up.
Real quick, Mac, let me say, the reason I think that it's important to have women in the conversation and also hear from women, be present to hear us and also hear from them. I think that us being better makes everybody better. And so, like, when you asked about women earlier, this might not be quick as I thought, but another thought just came in my head. When we were pregnant with our twins, I don't know if I shared this with you before, when we were pregnant with the twins, we were going into the hospital early. Like we were going to the hospital from first trimester all the way through. But when they were threatening to come, Braxton Hicks contractions were stronger than normal Braxton Hicks contractions. So at like 20-something weeks, our boys were like threatening to come. And so one of the nurses finally asked us, like, what are y'all having? And she said, like, clearly y'all are having black children, because she's looking at me and my wife. She was like, well, what gender are they? And we were like, well, they're males. And she was like, Dad. And I was like, why you say Dad? And she said, well, science says that the strongest child that can be born into this world is a black woman. And so there's this, I don't know the technical name for it, but the kind of sub name for it is called weak white boy syndrome. the weakest child that can be born into this earth is a white male. And so from strength is black woman, black male, white woman, white male. And so one, that challenges the idea that we all created equally. Not that we don't all have the same stuff in us, but there is something different about black women if they are the strongest baby to be born into the earth. So with all of that said, it's important for me to hear women's perspective and the black woman's perspective, because when we see black women and women healthy, our world will be healthier. Like, white supremacy has put women on the bottom, and because of that, as a result, our world is suffering because of it. So I think it's imperative that we hold space to see women held up high, because then it'll just elevate all of us. Because women have been done wrong, I think it has caused all of us to suffer in a way that is unhealthy. And so if we were able to bring them up, I think that it'll cause, like, I forget how he said it, but it was like, when the tide rises, all of the boats come up, so to speak. So if you bring women up, I think it's gonna, his wife being better is gonna affect his life in a positive way. And more positive, I think, than his life being better will affect her life. I think they have the ability to encourage us to do so much more. So it's like when they know more, they encourage us to do even more. Women have, throughout history, known less and encouraged men to do great things. So imagine if they knew more, if they were healthier, how much they would encourage men to do and also accomplish for themselves. So that's why for me it's important to get the woman present in the conversation, to hear and to hear us, because I think it's just gonna make us, it's gonna make the world better. Like I said to you last week, I don't need white people to see me as equal for me. Like, I'm cool, but it's gonna help white people if they see me as equal. They will benefit from what's in me if they are able to see me as equal. It's not to my benefit, it is to my detriment that they don't. I'll say that. But I don't need it. Personally, I've grown to a place where I don't need y'all to validate me. But you should want to validate me, because then you can benefit from all that's in me and all that's in him and all that's in him. So, and all that's in you. And then me on the other side, I need to not be so callous toward a white man that I'm not able to receive what good is in him. And so I think it's imperative for all of us to see and to operate in that way, because there is going to be a dumb in the day. But when we have respect and when we can appreciate the differences, we can work together.
Well said. Ladies, we're coming to get you to tell us more about self-care, self-love. Again, thank you all for your time. And remember, be great in all that you do and keep moving forward.
Ben, what was you about to say?